All right, let's just jump right into this. What if I told you that one of the most powerful playbooks for a modern financial trader is actually hidden inside a quiet 4-chapter story from the ancient world? I know, it sounds pretty unlikely. But today, we're going to unpack how the Book of Ruth offers this profound guide to navigating loss, mastering your discipline, and ultimately finding redemption in the markets. And this quote right here, it just sets the stage perfectly. It's basically promising that for any of you stuck in what feels like an unglamorous season, that long period before a big breakthrough, this story holds some really urgent wisdom. It suggests that a game-changing opportunity, what it calls the Boaz transaction, might be just around the corner, if you know how to get ready for it. So our journey has to start in the toughest place you can imagine. We're calling this the Naomi season. This is that period where the market takes literally everything you thought you had. Your account, your confidence, maybe even your system. The real question is, what do you do when you're left with absolutely nothing? So the story kicks off with Naomi, a woman who has lost it all. I mean, her husband, her sons, her entire future, just gone. And when she gets back home, she doesn't try to hide her pain. No, she literally renames herself Mara, which means bitter. But here's the absolute key. Even after naming her loss with that kind of brutal honesty, she still makes the choice to walk home, back toward the only place where restoration could even be possible. You can see how this translates directly to trading. First, you have to name your loss. Be brutally honest with yourself. No sugarcoating it. Second, trying to make it all back in a flash by revenge trading with insane risk, that's not recovery. You're just staying in that place of loss, digging the hole deeper. And third, that walk home, that's the big decision to get back to your core, proven, fundamental strategy. So here's the bottom line. If you've been wiped out, the first step is not to rush back into the fight. It's to identify your Bethlehem. What is that one foundational approach, that core system where you know, deep down, you have an edge? You got to find it. And then you just walk home. Okay, so at this point, Naomi's 2 daughters-in-law face a choice. And this just brilliantly illustrates the decision every single trader makes after a huge loss. Orpah, she makes the sensible choice. She goes back to the safety of what she knows, and it's not wrong, it's just reasonable. But Ruth makes an extraordinary, costly choice to push forward into a completely uncertain future. This is Ruth's vow, and man, it is the absolute heart of the next lesson. It's a total, unconditional statement of commitment. She's not saying, hey, I'll stick with you if things work out. No, she's saying, I'm in, no matter what. And this is a massive differentiator in trading. Most traders, if we're being honest, have a conditional commitment to their system. They follow it when it's printing money, but the second it hits a drawdown, they start tweaking things or they just abandon it altogether. A Ruth-level commitment says, I am sticking with my proven system through the wins and the losses. That kind of unconditional commitment, that's what builds true, lasting consistency. All right, let's move into our next section and see how this all builds. Because after you make the commitment, well, that's when the work starts. And this is the unglamorous day-in, day-out grind that lays the foundation for a real comeback. It's all about how you position yourself for that next opportunity. Ruth's strategy here is so simple, but it's brilliant. She doesn't wait around for an invitation or for the perfect setup. Nope. She just identifies where the harvest is happening, gets permission to be there, and then she just outworks everyone from sunrise to sunset. She literally puts herself in the path of provision. So what does this mean for us, for you? So many traders are spread way too thin, right? Trying to trade 5 different markets or 3 different strategies, all with divided focus. The lesson from Ruth is to analyze your data, find your single most profitable field, your best session, your best setup, and just work that one field with relentless, obsessive focus.
And then this is what happens. Boaz, the owner of the field, he notices her. But here's the thing. He doesn't just notice her work ethic that day. He's already heard about her. Her reputation for loyalty and for diligence. It arrived before she did. See, she wasn't trying to be seen. She was just focused on the work, and her private excellence created a public reputation.
So let me ask you, what's your reputation as a trader? Well, it's your trading journal. It's your track record. That disciplined, consistent work you do when absolutely no one is watching, the trade reviews, following your rules, managing your risk, That is what builds the credibility that will eventually open the big doors to things like funded accounts or major mentorships. But just working hard isn't enough. When Ruth tells Naomi that she was working in Boaz's field, Naomi immediately understands something that Ruth doesn't. She provides the market context. She knows that Boaz is a kinsman redeemer, a person with the actual legal power to change their entire situation. This is the critical role of a mentor, to give you the wisdom and the context that your hard work alone just can't see. And this, right here, brings us to the climax of the story. All that foundational work, the honest loss assessment, the unconditional commitment, the relentless daily gleaning, it all leads to this single strategic moment where all that preparation finally slams into a transformative opportunity. So Naomi gives Ruth this incredibly precise step-by-step protocol for approaching Boaz. I want you to think of this as the execution plan for your highest conviction trade. You prepare yourself, you wait for the exact perfect moment, you execute with precision, no hesitation, and you state your case. You take the trade according to the plan. There is zero room for improvisation here. But then a complication pops up. Boaz reveals that there's actually another guy with a closer legal claim, a nearer redeemer. And this raises a critical question every single trader has to face. Just because an opportunity shows up first, does that automatically make it the right one? And this table here reveals Boaz's brilliant strategy. He doesn't fight the other guy. He just calmly lays out the full terms of the deal. The nearer redeemer, he's interested in the land, sure, but when he hears the full cost that he also has to provide for Ruth, he backs out. He literally disqualifies himself. This is a masterclass in trading discipline, letting the good enough setups fail your full checklist so you can wait for that A-plus opportunity. So with that lesser opportunity out of the way, Boaz acts. And in one single public, legally binding transaction, he redeems everything. This is the power of a strategic partnership. For you, as a trader, this could be getting a funded account or finding that key mentor. It's that one move that can accelerate your entire journey. But let's be crystal clear about one thing. The Boaz transaction is not a shortcut. You don't just get this opportunity by luck. It isn't earned reward. It's the multiplication of all that disciplined, faithful work, all that gleaning that you have already done. So where does all this lead? I mean, we've come all the way from total loss to total redemption. But the story doesn't just end with wealth. It ends with something much, much more significant. Which brings us to our final section, the legacy of your journey. See, Ruth and Boaz have a son named Obed. And that son, he becomes the grandfather of King David, Israel's greatest king. Just think about that for a second. The ultimate outcome for Ruth, this outsider who started with literally nothing, wasn't just security. It was a legacy that changed the entire course of history. And this brings the whole story full circle. The women of the town are celebrating with Naomi, the same woman who once called herself bitter. Her season of complete emptiness has been totally transformed into a season of blessing and restoration. It just proves that her current reality was not her final chapter. And this brings us to the final and I think the most important takeaway. The faithful work that you do today, the journaling, the rule following, the patient waiting, it's building more than just an account balance. It's forging your character. It's creating a body of work. It is building a legacy. So the question I want to leave you with is this. What is the legacy of your discipline?